And let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with the Daily Mail, Cressida.
OK, Starmer impasses for glasses, sleaze row. So this is more, well, I suppose cronyism, isn't it? So this is Lord Ali, who's given up to, well, sorry, more than £500,000 in donations to Labour.
Wow.
Specifically, it says Lord Ali, who paid for thousands of pounds of suits and spectacles for the Prime Minister. If Keir Starmer is spending 500 grand on those specs, I think he wants his money back.
Well, there was a £20,000 glow up for Keir Starmer, which you'd think would, put a bit more glitter and, jazzle.
Yes, Trini and Susanna getting hold of him, bit of Gokwan action, brilliant. I didn't know that. So this is the TV millionaire, TV mogul, Lord Ali. Apparently he made Survivor.
Right.
You're a fan of that?
Never heard of it.
Do you think Keir Starmer's going to survive this, Adam?
Absolutely. Yeah, everybody's got a price, haven't they? His is just some suits and some glasses. I've never looked at Keir Starmer and thought he was particularly well dressed, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe it's one of those really expensive suits which looks quite normal. But,
yeah. I mean, the fact that Labour got it, I mean, we sort of expect this sort of behaviour from the Tories.
yeah.
But Labour are supposed to be like, purer, holier than thou. And they're taking money in return for what appears to be access to No.10, which is, I mean, that's pretty serious stuff. And it's not just Keir Starmer, it's also Sue Gray, the former civil servant who led the Partygate inquiry, who's supposed to be number one on ethics. And, if you do anything wrong, Sue Gray will investigate you. Her son's party took £10,000 from the same man. So, there's a lot of dodgy money flowing around.
It's not a good look for Labour, is it? I think it's purely because when you think of Labour politicians, you expect all of their clothes to be hand-stitched by people from mines. And sort of like, I don't know how they're doing it.
Yeah, the donkey jacket.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not a good look. If it was the Tories, you kind of go, you go over it. But like with the Labour, very disappointing.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they get past it. Moving on to the Express, Adam, what have they got in the cover?
Yes, the Daily Express says, it's a betrayal. Labour has no mandate to axe winter fuel payments. So those of you who've sort of been following this story, this is obviously the news, the revelation that Labour are planning on sort of axing the winter fuel payments, which affects pensioners in particular. Now, I'm sort of personally torn on this because when you hear about pensioners not being able to get sort of winter fuel allowances, you think, well, that's awful. You think of like your grandparents and old people suffering. And then my second thought is, well, I'm not a pensioner. And so it doesn't affect me. And I don't know if pensioners are worried about, me getting on the property ladder and things like that. However, there is a serious side to this, obviously. I know that Labour's trying to force it in and sort of say, look, we're only removing it from pensioners who don't necessarily need it, so those who are well off. But the reason why this is being criticised is because there are obviously pensioners who are just on the cusp. And now with the sort of the extra sort of increase in fuel payments and energy bills, the sort of effective payment is becoming a lot bigger. So there are going to be real people, unfortunately, who are going to be suffering from this.
Yeah, and Cresta, do you think pensioners will feel ripped off by Labour? Because, they were promised beforehand. Labour were always criticising the Tories over surging energy costs and inflation. And instead, Labour have turned round. They're lavishing money on the unions, who obviously donated to Labour. They're not lavishing money on pensioners. Do you think pensioners should get together and donate money to the Labour Party? And then maybe they'll get some winter fuel in return?
That was a long question, Leo. I think, what do I think? I think it's not a good look. Exactly. Taking money from pensioners, not a good look. I think the pensioners, even though their memories are going, they will remember that we were promised cheaper fuel bills. Now, what's happened to all that lovely, cheap, clean wind that hasn't appeared?
A lot of hot air.
Well, but lack of. No. So, I mean, that's really important, isn't it? The bills aren't coming down. We've been specifically told it's going to get worse. So you've got that to look forward to.
Yeah.
This is a terrible... It looks terrible.
Yeah, Keir Starmer was on TV saying things are going to get worse, which, I mean, he wasn't saying that message, a month and a half ago before we all went to the ballot box.
He had a great suit, though, to be fair.
Lovely glasses. Moving on to The Guardian, Cressida, what have they got on the cover?
They've got a picture of the lady at the Notting Hill Carnival having a lovely time. It's mostly been... Has it been entirely peaceful?
Well, according to the BBC, there was a stabbing, but it's mostly peaceful. It's not that peaceful for the person who was stabbed. Oh, man, no, not at all. Airstrikes on Hezbollah, not the end of the story, says Netanyahu. So it's all kicking off, isn't it? There's been raids on Hezbollah, which Netanyahu will tell you that they're all strategic. Of course, the other side won't say that. There's now rockets going back. And Netanyahu says that Hezbollah... So it begins with Netanyahu killing one of the senior commanders of Hezbollah. There's then retaliation. And what Netanyahu is saying is that they've destroyed
homes, essentially, civilians. And Hezbollah are saying, no, we were aiming at a military target. I guess saying they're not a very good shot. But what's weird is Hezbollah are really playing this as like a success story.
Right.
Which that's not how it comes across to me. It's just getting worse. There's no end in sight.
I mean, do you think Iran, because Hezbollah are a proxy militia fighting on behalf of Iran, basically, do you think Iran's got the appetite for a war with Israel? Because, I mean, Iran's sort of teetering on the edge at the moment. I think that its economy can take much more battering.
Yeah, I think this is interesting, isn't it? Because there's always this argument of, do they have the appetite for it? And you can even sort of say with Hamas and Gaza, like, should they have responded because they knew they were always going to be outmatched with Israel? But then there's this wider sort of argument saying, well, maybe they knew that Israel would sort of show an over retaliation perceived by some, and then you'd lose sort of public opinion and public faith, which is what's happening. So this could be a very strategic move from them. I mean, when I read the sort of my saying IDF and Lebanese militia exchanged the heaviest fire since the start of the Gaza war, my first response was, at least things are getting better. You know, like it's just ridiculous. I don't know. It's sad. I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah, it's sad, and it's an interminable conflict, it seems, as well. I'm not sure if we're going to see a resolution anytime soon, but are you looking forward to them negotiating, getting around the table and maybe hammering out at least,
Well, it's a bit different, isn't it, to Northern Ireland? I don't imagine them getting round a table in quite the same spirit of let's sort this out. Maybe I'm a cynic.
But, I mean, I'm old enough to remember the Troubles, and they were troubles. I mean, there was a lot of hatred and antipathy on both sides, and civilians being killed on both sides. I know it wasn't the same. Britain didn't have American aircraft carriers off the coast of Ireland, but I mean, it did show how what seems to be an interminable conflict can be resolved. So hopefully they'll start talking. And finally, let's have a look at the Daily Star. Adam, what have they got?
It's got to be hot. That's kind of it. I think the 24 degrees, scorching. Sun's out, Tums out.
Nice.
Rubbish.
Well, that's some good news, because I'm not joking. It's like 6 degrees outside. And like,
I am wearing a jumper because of that,
The worst thing about this weather is you've got to wear like 3 jumpers, and then you turn on the TV and, somebody from the Met Office or from the BBC is telling you, oh, it's the hottest August of all time. It's broken all possible records and we're all going to die in the heat. And I'm like, where's the heat? Why is it avoiding my house?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I love the British weather. You get all 4 seasons in one day, and I like seeing tourists sort of being caught off guard.
I don't like seeing tourists in these Speedos. This has gone downhill for me, because it used to hear...
These are not tourists, these are locals,
for
100%.
This looks like footage from the riots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, that's the front pages covered. Join us after the break for the £18 billion cost of Labour's illegal immigrant plan, the arrest of a social media billionaire, and is Notting Hill Carnival evidence of two-tier policing? See you in a minute. Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Telegraph now, and teachers will be taught to disrupt the centrality of whiteness. Might sound crazy, but it makes a change from drag queens reading pornographic stories, Adam.
Yeah, so this is from the Telegraph. This is teachers will be trained to challenge whiteness in schools. So a guidance has been created for teacher training courses to ensure future educators are anti-racist and prepared to implement this in the classroom. Now, this is a very interesting story. I don't know if you guys got to the third page of this, but they've actually got some new sort of questions that they're going to put in their textbooks. So this is a maths one. It says, if Emily has 12 apples and she gives Omar 5 apples, how much white privilege does she have left? Thank you.
She should give him all the apples.
Give him all the apples, yes. This is very, very inflammatory, obviously very silly. I've worked in schools. I've worked as sort of as a teaching assistant before I started doing stand-up and everything else. The one good thing about this is a lot of the training goes over their heads, and it's just a bit like health and safety. The amount of teachers who just go, yeah, and we'll do that, and we'll do this, and then they have a hard enough time getting people to listen in class. Yeah. So this story, before we get upset about it, they don't have the time. They're too busy marking, so that's my piece.
But I'm worried, Crescent, about the people who will want to do this are going to really do it. You know, the blue-haired, crazy non-binary people. And it actually says concepts including meritocracy, objectivity, and individualism should be questioned. They're like bad things. They're seen as like awfully white.
I don't know. It's so rude. It's so racist. It says one of the aims is to help teachers project white racial identity grounded in reality and allyship. This is obviously white teachers, presumably. It doesn't make any sense if you're not white. And the idea is that this will be free from notions of superiority. No, it won't. This whole thing is saying, we're the privileged people, so we're going to be nice to you. It's just so condescending. I hate it.
Yeah.
Me too. We've got The Independent now with a handy guide for parents to make sure their child is far right. How to spot if their child is far right, Adam.
Yes, so this one, The Independent, how to spot the signs your child is involved with the far right. So this is a reformed fascist, self-titled, I assume, tells Maya Oppenheim young people can get lost online, manipulated and be used by the extreme right wing, downloading manuals which could lead to arrest. And then it's got this guy, this ex-neo-Nazi, Nigel Bromage, looks like an egg. I don't know.
They always do.
Yeah, they always do. I don't know. I mean, looking into this, the advice is basically like if you see anything from the children, like if they become increasingly isolated, they don't want to go outside, they become really involved in their phones, things like that. This is just good advice, not about far right, for anything. Get your children off the phones, get them off social media, go and touch grass. Don't teach your children to critically think. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of this doesn't sound particularly like, what we've been told is far right. This just sounds like, weird, obsessive behaviour on the internet, which, as Adam says,
some of the
is
criteria
bad.
are the same for if they've joined Just Stop Oil.
Yes.
If they sound like they're speaking from a script, unwillingness to discuss their views, if they seem like they're always right, how are you supposed to know?
Yeah.
And also, this thing, increased secretiveness, especially around internet use. I mean, if this is a teenage boy we're talking about, I mean, come on, there's other reasons that could be happening. And also the example they give of a far-right person is Andrew Tate, who is a Muslim person of colour. Now, I've been told for the last few years that far-right people are apparently massively Islamophobic and massively racist, so I don't think he's the best example of a far-right person.
Yeah, I think he's a bit anomalous. He's not as helpful as he might be. I mean, really, this is all just preparing us for the online safety bill, isn't it? It's like, you need somebody to help, we're giving you bits of advice, but really the internet's a dangerous place. Yeah. We're going to police it.
You know what? I don't feel that threatened by the internet. I feel threatened by Keir Starmer's authoritarian dreams. Yeah. That's what's threatening me. Yeah.
Also, quick note for The Independent. If you don't want to, worry about Andrew Tate, stop bringing him up. Every time. Stop bringing him up. You're giving him too much airtime.
They do plug him.
Move on.